Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Hello and welcome to Primetime Local News. I'm Lane Hoffert. Thank you for tuning in. The hotly anticipated annual Lloydminster Parade took to the streets of Lloyd. Our Callan Dunlap has more on what's new this year.
This year's theme, Kick It Up, brought out numerous city organizations and nonprofits to show off their floats to all the Lloyd residents in attendance.
We're new to Lloyd. We've only been here about 5 years. We're from Ontario, so my daughter happens to live right here. And we have a little grandson, so this is our third year, his second.
Every year the parade comes through, it brings the community that much closer together.
It's fun. The whole community gets involved. We see all kinds of businesses that we didn't even know were here, so that's kind of cool when you see all the different floats and people. They're all friendly. As you can see, the little ones get a lot of candy throwouts and stuff.
With something for all, young or old, this year the kids had their fair share of fun.
I mostly like the horses. My favorite thing is a good singing.
The yearly event draws in hundreds of people to the streets, all before the weather gets too uncontrollable.
I love it. It's on Wednesday morning. I just think that that's great. We can come out in the morning before the heat hits. Perfect for the little guys. Yeah.
Callan Dunlop, Primetime, Local News.
A reminder out of southern Alberta today about how dry it is in some areas. A grass fire had the Carstairs Fire Department out just after 2 yesterday. It was in the east ditch of the QE2 northbound lanes. The fire is believed to have been started by a discarded cigarette. Thankfully, the fire was contained quickly. The reminder comes as much of Alberta remains under a heat warning. RCMP say a tossed cigarette risks property and lives. Lloyd Pride 2024 is underway. The 2S LGBTQIA+ Society of Lloydminster is hosting events around the city to celebrate and raise awareness of issues that affect the community. Our Leanne Sanders sat down with the vice chair of the society to fill us in on all that's happening.
I am here with Christopher Wise with the 2SLGBTQ1A Society of Lloydminster, and we're talking about Lloydminster's Pride, which is happening right now. What can you tell me about the events that are happening this week, Christopher?
Well, Leanne, so we are midway through Lloydminster's Pride Week. Today is Wednesday, so we're about, I would say, 3/4 done. So far, we've had a lot of different activities, events. Last Saturday was our drag show that we hosted at the casino, which is always a good time, lots of laughs, lots of fun. Then on the following morning, on the Sunday, we had our Pride in the Park and our Pride Walk that happened at Synergy Credit Union, which is an amazing sponsor of ours. And what was new this year that we didn't have before, we had live bands. So it definitely added to the atmosphere. And it just seems that our Pride in the Park is always growing. And we had a lot more vendors this year. So it really felt, even though we're in Lloydminster and we still have that small town vibe, it definitely felt like that we were almost rivaling the bigger cities like Edmonton and Saskatoon. And then on Monday, we had the pancake breakfast at the Synovus Place in their parking lot. They were very gracious to donate the food, the coffee, the orange juice, and also the staff were there to serve, and that was a great success as well. Synovus in the past years have always been a great supporter of ours as well. And then on Tuesday, yesterday, we had a small group of people decorating our parade float. We have been in the parade since 2019, and it's always a good time. We love being we call our float and our truck our Pride Unicorn. And so it's always a hit with families and kids. And then that evening, we had a movie night at Grace United Church. That was an all ages family event, because even though I know a lot of people think Pride, they think like going out to the bars or stuff like that, but we always want to be inclusive to those individuals that do have children or want more of a low key evening. And then tonight, after the parade, we have drag bingo at Cheers Live. Definitely come check that out. It is free to attend. And just remember, this is not your grandmother's bingo. I am not going to be calling B11. And you might learn something as well, because with the bingo, we incorporate a lot of fun into it. However, there's definitely a learning piece that people come away with some knowledge. Thursday, we are having a private backyard barbecue. So if anybody wants to check that out, they have to be on the Lloydminster LGBTQ plus society's private Facebook group to get that invite. And then on Friday, we are rounding out Pride Week with a Pride Gala, also at Cheers Live. That one is $10 to attend, but you do get a $5 food credit. So dress in your most sparkly outfit. It doesn't have to be formal, but you can definitely dress up if you want. But essentially, just come out for a good time, and that's from 7 to 11 at Cheers Live.
So, Christopher, as much fun as all of these events are, they're really about inclusivity and acceptance of everybody. And but they're always a lot of fun.
Yes. I think at the end of the day, why Pride is important, because myself growing up as a gay child, and even before I knew what gay was, I always thought that something was wrong with me. And if I had the same opportunity that we strive to put forth with the 2S LGBTQ plus society nonprofit group, we just want to ensure that people are living their authentic selves and living their lives to the fullest. So the more that we can do, the more visibility that we have, hopefully we can inspire some joy in people's lives. So.
Well, I'm sure that the events that you're having for the rest of the week will be excellently attended, I hope, and everybody has a great time. Thank you very much for your time today, Christopher.
Of course, and thank you, Leanne, for having me on today.
Getting a divorce can be a costly process. Stacy Comer has some tips on how to make it a bit easier on your pocketbook.
It's time once again for another segment of Healthy Thriving Family After Divorce. Stephanie Dobson is joining me. Stephanie is a lawyer, mediator, and online educator with Hanka Divorce Law and Mediation offices in Edmonton and Lloydminster. Stephanie, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks again, Stacey, as usual.
Well, today we're going to go through some tips and basically related to finances when going through the separation and divorce process. So we're going to go through them. I'll talk a little bit about them, and then you will give me the expert opinion on what each tip is. So
yeah, we've got our top 10 tips.
That's right. So for the first tip, Stephanie, it is assess your financial situation.
Yeah, so I recommend under this heading that our audience starts by taking stock of their assets, debts, income, and expenses. Understanding your financial standing will, of course, help you to be more informed throughout the divorce process. So many people, when they first start, they don't even know where they have bank accounts. They might not know what their mortgage is at. So if you, in the process that we use at Hanka Divorce, we have a bunch of checklists and worksheets that you can start to work through to start taking stock of that, because it really can be a daunting process when you get started.
Okay, and further to that is to establish a realistic budget, which is tip number 2.
Yeah, so I've also got a standard budget sheet that can really help you to start by creating a detailed budget that outlines essential expenses and then also financial goals post-divorce. So it's really important to be realistic about income and spending habits to ensure the financial stability of you and your family during the divorce as well as after the divorce.
Okay, and tip number 3 is to consult with a financial advisor.
Yeah, these tips keep building on one another. So thinking about your budget and then thinking about a financial advisor. So I really recommend consider seeking guidance from a financial advisor who specializes in divorce planning. So not every financial advisor is a specialty with divorce, but there's actually certain designations that financial advisors can get that talk about divorce. So they can help you really to understand the financial implications of divorce and the divorce settlement, and to look at a long-term financial strategy. So very often we actually use a financial advisor as part of the divorce process in our office.
Okay, and the next one, and this one is really super important, is to protect your credit.
Yeah, it's really important, of course, to monitor your credit score and ensure that joint accounts are managed responsibly. There might be some overdraft ability on those accounts, so it's really important to manage those responsibly and to prevent any negative impact on your credit. So either by closing joint accounts or closing overdrafts or capping lines of credit, and start establishing your own credit accounts to, I mean, even getting yourself a credit card if you don't have one in your own name to start establishing some credit.
Okay, and on to tip number 5, which is negotiate wisely.
Yeah. So during the divorce settlement negotiations, it's really important to prioritize your financial stability and long-term security. So think about the tax implications of various asset division scenarios and aim for a really fair and equitable distribution.
Okay, and this one, which is number 6, is one we speak of quite often, and that is avoiding costly litigation.
Yeah, so the processes that we use at our office I call them consensual dispute resolution. So CDR methods like mediation or collaborative divorce, that'll help save you on legal fees and really to expedite the process. Because as most of our audience will know, litigation can be very costly and time consuming.
Okay, and the next one is to stay organized. Why is that important?
Well, it's important to stay organized in life, I suppose, but through your divorce, get yourself a binder, keep thorough records of all financial documents. When we're talking about taking stock of your assets and debts, you might want to keep photocopies or even an electronic folder of bank statements, tax returns, asset valuations, even communication with your ex-spouse and legal counsel to really keep things in an organized way so that you can go back and access them as you need.
Okay, and number 8 is to maximize tax savings.
So there's lots of tax rules around any settlement. So it's really important that you talk with your accountant and have your accountant involved with you as you consider various negotiation settlement concepts.
Okay, and moving on to number 9, prioritizing financial independence.
So develop a post-divorce financial plan that prioritizes your independence and long-term financial security. So consider even upgrading your job skills, building an emergency fund, and planning for retirement independently because you don't have that togetherness anymore.
Okay, and the last tip number 10, is to seek support. And why is that important, Stephanie?
So we've talked before about having that shoulder to lean on. It's really important to seek emotional and financial support from friends, family, support groups, mental health professionals. Divorce can be overwhelming, but with a strong support network, you can certainly navigate the challenges more effectively. It takes a village.
It certainly does. We found
Yeah.
that out pretty much every week that we speak. It always needs
Yeah.
support for one thing or another. So
Yeah.
thanks so much for joining me, Stephanie. I appreciate it. And we will chat with you again next week.
Thanks, Stacey.
That's all for news. Sports is next, but first, here's a look at your closing market.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
The 101st Rangeland Derby is well underway at the Calgary Stampede, and the competition has been scorching hot. Our Thomas Wildman has more.
Today I'm joined by Greg Buchanan, the radio host for the WPCA, as well as the radio host for the Rangeland Derby down at the Calgary Stampede. He's here today to talk about the Rangeland Derby, and so thank you so much for being with me today, Greg.
Thanks a lot for having me, Tommy.
How have the first few days of racing been down at Calgary so far, especially with all this heat?
Over 20 years of covering the Calgary Stampede, and it's the same old, same old. A little hot this week, 31, 32 degrees yesterday. They're expecting a high of 35, 36, which will make it feel like 38, like over the 30s doesn't really matter if it's 32 or 33. And honestly, the crowds are amazing. Packed grandstand last night, expecting more of the same all week long. But I hate driving on the Deerfoot. There we go.
And you mentioned that the fans aren't exactly appreciating the heat, but how much does the heat affect the drivers and the horses for the chuck wagon racing?
But the heat is just like the horses are just like humans. Some people like the heat, some people don't, and the horses are the same way. The horses are taken care of very well. If you go in the barns, probably on the grounds of the Stampede, outside of some of the buildings, the coolest place to go to is in the barns where the horses are, because the fans are going, the lights are down, and they're treated the way they should be treated, like a star athlete prior to performing in a heat. But yeah, honestly, it's not going to really be an impact here at the Stampede.
And so Ray Corrado Jr. and Jamie Labicane, who are both local drivers, are near the top of the aggregate standings. There are also a bunch of other local drivers intermediately throughout the standings. How have they been doing so far, and what is the path for success for them to try and be in that final dash for cash and win a Calgary Stampede title?
There's no secret in chuck wagon racing. The secret of success in chuck wagons is to be fast, but more important is to be clean. Kurt Bensmiller, a four-time Calgary Stampede champion, calls Dewberry home, is sitting in the top 12, even though he knocked down a barrel, 5 seconds. So he has an uphill climb. But, knocking on the door there too is Chris Mully, a former Calgary Stampede champion down the road in Chauvin. So he's in contention. So it's anybody's guess right now. Like even Jason Glass knocks down a barrel, wins the day money, and Jason Glass is still in the top 10. So it is really, when you knock down that 5, it's an uphill climb, but at the same time, one door opens, another one closes for some of those. That right now it's going to be coming the battle of the chasers and the chasees. So if you're in that top 5, top 6, and you want to be in the top 3 at the end Saturday night, you want to stay there. Those ones behind you want to catch you.
And finally, Greg, who has really impressed you so far throughout these first few days of the Rangeland Derby, and who would you pick to be the final champion of the Rangeland Derby for 2024?
Covering the WPCA this year, one thing I've noticed that anybody in this association can win day money in a given night. One guy that I've been impressed with since coming over the WPCA is Chad Fike. I'm not saying this because Chad's on top of the aggregate standings. I said this on night number 1 on the WPCA radio, which, by the way, you can listen to on Stingray on Drumheller 910, and also WPCA.com. There's a bit of a plug there, Tommy. But I would say Chad Fike is the guy, because Chad Fike's that one driver in the WPCA that you're waiting to win that big show. He's had a few knocks at it. Had a chance in Ponoka, didn't work out for him. Had a chance there in Bonneville, didn't work out for him. So I think he is the next one that steps up. And Chad Fike right now is your aggregate show leader. And I'm not saying that. I said that on night number 1. So there we go.
Thank you so much for all the information today, Greg, and I look forward to those final few days of chuck wagon racing and, of course, Championship Sunday coming up.
Thank you very much, Tommy.
The Lloydminster Junior B Extreme Lacrosse team is getting ready to make a big push in the playoffs. I spoke with their head coach to find out more. After a successful regular season, going 11-2-1 with 1 game left before playoffs, the Extreme have clinched second place in the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League. Head coach Graham Murray believes the team is a well-oiled machine.
I think we're kind of, we're peaking kind of at the right time. Things are going well for us defensively, in transition. Offensively, we still got a couple of kinks that we hope to work out here. But goaltending, I think we have the best goaltender in the league.
The season has been full of character moments for the team, including a scrappy win last weekend against the Parkland Posse.
I guess we go just even back to last Saturday when we won a tight one, 6-5 against Parkland. I thought it was a real character win for us. I don't think we had our best game after being off for 2 weeks, but we persevered and won that one.
The Extreme's position in second place means that the team has more time to practice and rest than the playoff teams that placed lower.
So first round, we actually have a bye. So that's what we get for clinching second there. So then we'll get the highest seed left over. And, yeah.
With a successful regular season nearly behind them, the Extreme are ready for the playoffs and a chance to become league champions. Lane Hoffert, Primetime Local News. Farmers are finally catching a break with the arrival of this warm, sunny weather. But the start to a strong growing season could go off track if a pending rail strike comes to pass. CTV's John Flatters explains.
Saskatchewan farmers should be happy with that healthy dose of rain in June as long as they got the seeds in the ground before it got too soft. It was a slower start due to the rain, but sunny skies and hot temperatures are making for ideal growing conditions.
There's kind of a sweet spot. That's kind of where we were this spring, in that there was significant enough moisture to get the seeds germinated, to get the crops off to a good start, but it wasn't so wet that we were struggling with getting stuck and having to leave areas unseeded.
In some parts of the province, crops could start coming off in just a few weeks. Farmers will be rushing to get their product loaded onto train cars for a number of reasons.
One, to free up bin space. It is looking like there's going to be a good harvest, so there will be, guys' bins are going to be full. And also for cash flow. The only way we get paid is when we sell our crops. So we need move that grain in a timely manner to create cash flow.
But a potential rail worker strike involving both CN and CPKC, formerly known as CP Rail, is threatening the flow of goods by train. Rail employees say understaffing is causing safety concerns, leading to worker fatigue and problems with retention. The Canada Industrial Relations Board has stepped in and suspended any potential strike action while it reviews the negotiations.
So we're just basically waiting for this tribunal to hand down a decision. And because they're independent, we don't know when exactly this decision is going to come in.
Monette says the decision could take anywhere from weeks to months, but farmers hoping to get a return on their investment can't afford to have problems when it comes time to harvest their crops.
A strike, at this time of year is potentially very devastating, in that if producers are counting on moving grain off the combine or early in the harvest season, and any kind of labor disruption or disruption of any kind in the grain handling system is going to be detrimental.
John Flatters, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Now let's look at your agriculture prices. Tomorrow will be warm and breezy in the morning with a high of 31 and a low of 13. Friday will be breezy in the morning with a high of 26 and a low of 13. And Saturday will be a stray morning with 56% chance of showers with a high of 24 and a low of 13. And that's all the time we have today for Primetime Local News. I'm Lane Hoffert. Thanks for watching.